President Trump very keen to stress that this is a peace deal, although some are doubting that, particularly the Thai delegates. They've slightly poured cold water on calling it the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords, instead saying it's more of a pathway to peace. And in reality, it's sort of an expansion of the ceasefire deal that was already in place. Both sides are pledging to remove some of the heavy artillery from the border areas, also looking at the removal of landmines as well, creating an ASEAN observer team who will make sure that the ceasefire holds and is being followed correctly. And if all this is to happen, Thailand have pledged to release 18 Cambodian prisoners of war as well. Now, President Trump was very keen to be here today, attending the signing of this peace declaration. He's taken a lot of credit for bringing an end to that 5-day dispute earlier in the year, bringing both sides to the negotiating table because of the threat of tariffs. It is actually an ongoing dispute. It's been a decades-long dispute on the border between Thailand and Cambodia. So there are questions over just how long this peace agreement will last. Ever since the ceasefire was implemented, both sides have accused each other of violations, and tensions have been high on the border. But certainly, I think having the backing of President Trump, his involvement in this, will certainly add weight to this ceasefire deal. It remains to be seen, obviously, how it all plays out on the border. But today, President Trump, again, emphasizing that he is the president of peace and he is going around solving conflicts.
Yeah, and to that end, he gave the longest speech at the summit, Adam. How has he been received by the ASEAN members?
I think fairly well, in all honesty. It's quite rare for US presidents, particularly in recent years, particularly with Donald Trump, to attend these summits. He's only been to one previously, Donald Trump, back in 2017 in Manila. He even skipped an ASEAN summit when it was held virtually during the pandemic. And there have been questions raised over the administration's interest in this region. So having him here, albeit only for a day, is still significant. Obviously, there are questions over President Trump's real motive for being here, many seeing it purely as a photo opportunity around the signing of that ceasefire agreement. Outside of the summit, there have been protests in Kuala Lumpur today. Malaysia is a Muslim majority country, very sympathetic towards the Palestinian cause. And there is anger over President Trump's perceived support towards Israel and people feeling that he could have done more to secure some kind of ceasefire agreement earlier. So there were some protesters close to the venue today. But overall, I think Southeast Asian countries are happy to host Donald Trump. It gives their own annual meetings some more standing on the world stage and also allows leaders to speak directly, face-to-face with the US president and try to get some of those tariff rates down as well.
Yeah, Southeast Asia, the most export-dependent region in the world, far more reliant on the U.S. market than China. But Trump expected to meet with his Chinese counterpart perhaps later this week. What more do we know?
Yeah, all eyes are going to be on that meeting, which will end President Trump's tour of Asia. He goes to Japan from here in Malaysia, and then he goes on to South Korea and the APEC summit, where he's expected to meet with President Xi. On the sidelines at the ASEAN summit here in Malaysia today, US-China trade talks have wrapped up, and there have been some positive noises, particularly coming out of the US camp, that some kind of trade arrangement is now in place that both President Trump and President Xi will be able to finalize when they meet in person. Everybody is very nervous because November the 1st is when President Trump has threatened to implement 100% tariffs on goods from China because of China's export restrictions on rare earths. So it's hoped that a trade deal can be found. There's been a number of meetings between US and Chinese trade officials. It did all seem to be going well until President Trump was angered by those export restrictions. But particularly here in Southeast Asia, where they often find themselves in the center of that great US-China conflict, they rely on both for trade, they rely on access to critical minerals from China. They're really holding their breath that a trade deal can be finalized between the leaders when they meet in South Korea